Nothing beer can't fix.
I tell you, they might need to add some tequila to that happy hour. Did you feel any I mean, you're good at reading people. Did it seem like they're really cool or what?
I guess.
I mean, there's just a lot at stake, and a fracture. But let's just be real. The Republican Party, like the Democratic Party, it's already fractured. You got your Mary Torres people. You got your, Chris Duenas, Teletigui people. So, yeah, there's always been factions in all the parties, and that's always been the struggle for both Republicans and Democrats, is to somehow unite these different and opposing factions that are within the same party, which is something that Lou and Josh were able to do successfully when they folded former Governor Carl Gutierrez into the power mix. I mean, yeah, they've got to, feed him, tender morsels every couple months and increase his authority to keep him happy, but that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, what would the alternative have been? Uncle Carl, he will kill you by making deals with the other side in the general. So they were able to stave that off in the last election, and that's why I feel like it's just very crucial for these Republicans, if they want to win, to really kind of be, at the very least, united within themselves, and then they could go and get some of those. Because, I mean, it's going to be real. There's some of these Democrats who are a little more independent than the administration would mind, and I think that's where you could see some of that support, whether or not it's outright or behind the scenes, make a difference for them. It's 8:15. Good morning. The show is brought to you by East West Rental, Calvo Enterprises, IT&E, and Carrier for all my Aircon babies. 647 cool. Let's go back into the Zoom room now. Don't worry, Daphne. We sanitized all the Republican stuff that was in the Zoom room because it was a little bit of a love fest between Senator Chris. I was just waiting for them to hug, like virtual hug. Come here, man. Bring it in. Grr. But you got a nice sterilized environment now. And man, I got to tell you, you are one popular lady with this American Rescue Plan coming out. Everybody's just drooling about this new stimulus. And Dad, we'll just start there. Just what is the new stimulus and the timeline for that? I'm pretty sure I know that you were kind of in discussions, but what are we looking at from now to, checks cut?
Well, so over the weekend, I did get a note from my counterpart at the IRS with regards to additional discussions this week. We're hoping that in this week that we'll be able to review some of the language for the amended EIP plan for EIP3. So that's exciting. And, I know that it is the desire not only of us here on Guam, but also of my counterparts. And I know, I'm sure even the Treasury as well, to try to get these payments out to the insular areas as soon as possible. So in this week, we're going to continue discussions. In the last week, a lot of it was review. As you know, there's many things that fell out of the American Rescue Plan. To talk a little bit about, I guess I'll start with EIP3. A lot of people have questions about how do I qualify for EIP3. So with EIP1, as you recall, there was we were able to use 2019 returns or 2018 returns if there was no 2019. So there was what's called a substitute year. For EIP2, there was no substitute year. You had to use a 2019 return or the non-filer form, which we had issued last year or allowed for people to file through November 21. Now we are coming to EIP3. And EIP3 says basically that, or the guidelines are that it's based on a 2019 return, unless you have a 2020 return that is filed and processed. And it's very important, the filed and processed. And what I find is interesting is throughout this whole, I guess, since the beginning of the time that we began discussing this with the Treasury and the IRS, we had been advocates of the language validly filed and processed. We hadn't seen it in the CARES Act. We hadn't seen it in this CRTRA, which passed in December. But in the American Rescue Plan, there's actually language in there regarding a return that's filed with IRS, not just being filed, but also processed. So, the IRS as well recognizes the value or the importance of making sure it's clear because they themselves have manually filed returns. So although they likely probably have 70 to 80% or now even more in terms of online filers, there's still those returns that were not being able to be processed because a lot of the time in this last year, I know, at least based on my discussions with the IRS, that they were, they were remote working a lot. So in terms of those the language. They did actually adjust the language, and in the American Rescue Plan, that language was included for the IRS as well. And again, that was hugely important. I know a lot of people have questions about the phase outs, right? So what is my income level going to be, or what does my income level have to be so that I can qualify? With regards to the income levels, the phase outs, there was a reduction in the phase out. So what we're seeing now is if you are a single filer and you made 75,000, we're gonna see the phase out starting at the same point but ending a lot lower. So the phase out begins at 75,000 for an individual filer. It phases out completely, meaning you don't get anything at all in terms of EIP3 once you hit $80,000. For individual, that's for individual filers. For head of household filers, the phase out begins at 112,500. Again, the beginning phase outs haven't changed. It's just the top end of it has been reduced. So if you are a head of household filer, now you'll be phased out completely at $120,000. And if you are married filing joint, your joint filers, the phase out begins at $150,000 and ends at $160,000. So this is different from what we saw with the prior EIPs. And that's important. So we're going to see that there are some people who may have qualified because they fell because of their the thresholds, but we're going to see now that the thresholds have dropped, that there may not be people who qualify. Something else that was important, and as you know, there was this gap that was identified in the first stimulus for EIP1, just right after basically, was that, there was no, the eligibility for dependents was very limited. And we saw that only those dependents who were ages 16 and below, and whose parents or whose taxpayers were claiming them were eligible. But now we're seeing that has been open. And so for EIP3, all dependents now are qualified or will qualify their whoever is claiming them for the $1,400, as long as all other eligibility criteria is met. So those are very important. Those are hugely important to our people, I'm sure. Again, especially for those people who claim they're adult parents, those people who have disabled dependents of any age, and even for those people who have college age dependents. Their children are attending college and they are relying solely on their parents for the support. And so now those individuals will be able to get the benefit of having those dependents claimed on their tax returns.
Daph, we had a question. What garnishments do you know will apply to the EIP3 stimulus?
As far as I know, it's going to be similar to EIP2, where we will not see garnishments for outstanding taxes. We will not see garnishments for child support or for even outstanding GMH bills. So that is what's going to happen with EIP3. We're not seeing any of those garnishments applying to this particular measure.
Let's move back now. EIP2 payment status. When's the next round of checks going out?
Wasn't the deadline? Wasn't the deadline the 19th?
Yes. So the deadline for us to make any payments was the 19th. Last week, we actually processed checks Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I don't have yet the final numbers for Friday. My team's putting that together because we did those payments. I think we processed them after 5. We were trying to make sure we got in as many payments as we could. Through Thursday, though, for the last week, we did a little bit over $2,500 payments. We processed a little bit over 2,500 payments, and the total was a little bit over $1.8 million. What we did last year, and if you notice, when you look at our media releases for last week, they're a little bit higher than what you saw in the weeks just kind of, prior. And that's because we processed payments for Social Security, veterans benefits, and also the RRB, those federal benefit recipients. How has worked, Bree and Chris, is, we have worked with the IRS to get information for federal benefit recipients. So for those federal benefit recipients who may not have filed a return, or who were, we were able to make those payments out in the last week, and we're happy that we're able to get those payments out to them. So that's why you saw a little bit of an increase in the dollar amount of payments that we made in the last week over the prior weeks.
But you guys are done though. You're not processing any more EIP2?
No. Okay. We are not allowed to process any more EIP2s. I can say that from January 23, when we first processed payments until March 18, we had processed over 75,000 payments. totaling $78.98 million. So I don't think that number is going to move too much based on the Friday numbers, but again, it's 75,155 payments totaling $78.98 million, and that's as of last week, Thursday. And so we're happy to say that we were able to get those out within a little bit less than 2 months to our people.
DAF, so I know you said you processed checks Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but when do those hit the streets?
Well, so what happens is when we do process payments, we transmit them. If we process them in the morning, we try to get them to the treasurer in the afternoon. Generally, it will take less than a day for us to transmit those. So if we process them Friday, I'm expecting that those are going to be transmitted to the treasurer this morning. Everything that was processed last week, though, was before Friday was already transmitted to the treasury. Likely those are already out in the mail. Okay. The treasurer has been really great at, of course, DOA has been really great at getting those payments out. As soon as we transmit them, I know that they transmit them out as well to our people.
Right on. What about tax refund payment status?
So tax refunds, as you know, in the last couple of weeks, we did pay through Feb 11. So we did, I think as of March 13, we paid out through February 11 file dates for those A status returns as of Feb 11. And really that was very, it's pretty significant because at least as of March 13, that means that we were within 30 days of, within 30 days of those returns being filed or becoming A status, we were able to pay. And I'm very proud of our team, not just the team here at Rev and Tax, but our entire fiscal team, because it's taken a lot of coordination with, of course, our team in terms of processing, but also the Department of Administration, our Chief Fiscal Officer as well, just to make sure that, we've been making payments out on refunds, on a consistent basis. As I've mentioned, many times before, probably back in March 2019, we did start making weekly payments, and we tried to make sure that we did weekly payments so there was some level of consistency in how we were paying. And we're very, again, happy to say that we've been able to process and pay out at least those payments, those returns that were filed as of Feb 11. And so that's very exciting for us. We, as you know, though, and this has been discussed a lot, there's a few things that have happened in the last week. There was the discussion about the unemployment, the $10,200 in unemployment that is now non-taxable, and that's for 2020 returns. And we have a lot of questions about that. And so, the IRS themselves, I like to say over the weekend as well, I know that I think it's IRS Commissioner Reddick, he had, gone before Congress and he had advised that he's not recommending that taxpayers file amended returns. Now, for us here on Guam, we've also been kind of working to open up discussions with the IRS on that and on how we're going to go about that. There is nothing that prevents people from filing an amended return if that is what they wish to do. We do not dictate that. However, we will be working to provide some level of guidance as soon as we're able to. Again, we're still in discussions with the IRS about that. And that's one thing that happened in this last week, or that came out of the American Rescue Plan, is this $10,200 in now non-taxable unemployment compensation. So we know that for a lot of people who had filed early, that may impact them, there is a question as to how do I address that. And at this point, again, there's nothing that prevents people from amending their returns if that's what they wish to do. Last week, the IRS did issue guidance on how to report that $10,200 in unemployment if you hadn't already filed your return. But again, they haven't given or issued any official statement on how to deal with the return if you've already filed something, outside of just saying that they'll provide additional guidance, but they are advising not to amend returns. The other thing that we saw is that last week, Thursday morning, Guam time, we were also advised that there was discussion, early morning Guam time, there was discussion about the move of the tax deadline.
Yeah.
And so we did do an official announcement on that. And again, there's so many things that are falling out of the American Rescue Plan. And then out of, I guess, subsequently as well, because the IRS and the Treasury, if you look through the American Rescue Plan, and I have thumbed through that myself, there is a lot that is involved. There is a lot that the Treasury has to do in terms of the work that's involved that's falling out of that. So I know that this May 17 push, of course, if you read, the articles across the destination. It's a combination of one, there was a push because individuals do need additional help or additional time to make payment, to gather their documents so that they could file their returns. But the other piece of it is, of course, the IRS themselves is still trying to address some of the items, again, similar, like the $10,200 in unemployment that is coming out of the American Rescue Plan. I do want to share, though, this announcement that was made last week, this March 2021, is different from the announcement that was made in March 2020. And it's very important that people recognize that. In 2020, when the IRS made an announcement about the move of the deadline to July 15, 2020, what they did was they extended the deadline for anything that was due between April 15 and July 15 to July 15. So whether it was an individual return, a corporate return, a trust or estate return, those returns are generally due on April 15, or even, I believe, estimated tax payments. Those deadlines were moved to July 15. This time, it is different. There is a difference. The announcement that was made in the last week applies only to individual filers, meaning that if you are a corporation, if you are filing an estate or trust return, those are still due on April 15. It is only your Form 1040, basically, that is actually going to be extended through May 17. And again, that is very important for people, if you, not only file your own individual return, but you file your corporation or your corporate, your business return, or your estate or trust return, those have not been extended. And that is the difference between what we saw in March 2020, that announcement, versus this last announcement in this last week.
Daph, I just got a call about when's the deadline to file for an extension?
So if you're going to be filing for an extension, you have until May 17 to file for that extension for an individual return. But I just want to share, you can get onto myguamtax.com. You can file an extension right now. You don't have to wait until May 17. File your extension. You can also file your extension with payment on myguamtax.com so that you don't even have to worry about coming in and doing, like making a payment, having to go to Treasurer of Guam, having to get in line here. So if you're going to file an extension, to clarify, you do not need an extension to qualify for the extended deadline of May 17. However, if you need more time beyond May 17 and you're not able to get the filing done, it's very important that you file an extension. You know what? There's several penalties that are involved when you don't file. There's the failure to file and there's the failure to pay. The failure to file is probably the worst of the two. So at least if you file your extension, you have all the way until October 15. You avoid that failure to file penalty. You still may have a failure to pay if you owe taxes, but you avoid the failure to file. So again, I really highly recommend, if you know already it's March 22 that you're not going to be able to gather your documents, just get on myguamtax.com and file your extension. It's a Form 4868 and you can do that there. Can I please also make one more announcement? You know what? I'm so excited because I know, Sabrina, last year we talked about the portal for EIP1. We talked about the portal for EIP2. In this last week we actually launched, and we haven't even done the official media release on it yet, but we launched a Check My Refund portal. So not only can you check the status of your EIP, your EIP 1 and 2, you can now check the status of your refund, whether or not you've been paid a refund, the amount of your refund, and we're excited about that. In 2019, when I started, this was something that I had talked with my team about. We really wanted to try to launch a Check My Refund portal. A lot of our questions that we get, and I also man phones, I've been trying my best to help the team answer phones. A lot of our questions are about stimulus or about refunds. Now you can actually get on myguamtax.com and check the status of your refund. Again, as long as you do, as long as you have all of your information on your tax return, and again, we require a lot of information because we want to make sure that the individuals who are checking statuses are really the taxpayer themselves, right? We want to make sure that there's that level of security there. But now you're empowered and you can go ahead and check the status. And so I'm very excited about that. We just launched it last week. We were so busy doing all other things that we did not even announce it, but I'm announcing it today with you guys this morning.
Awesome. Just real quickly, just a reminder, what time and days can we file 1040 tax in person?
Okay, so if you want to file your returns, you can come to Rev and Tax. Monday through Friday. Our team's actually here before 7 at the drive-through drop-off. Now, as a tip, and I know I was talking with somebody about, perhaps providing some tips. We do have a very long line of cars here that's very early in the morning. And so if you come really early Monday through Friday, you may get caught in that line. I suggest that if you're going to come, and if it's purely just for the drive-through drop-off, meaning you're going to file a individual return, you're going to file a corporate return, an income tax return. My team's also been accepting the quarterly payroll returns, like the Forms W-1, the SWICA. So if you're just going to purely file those for income tax, although we are there from 7 to noon, you know what, likely it's probably better to come between maybe 9 and noon, because there's a little bit less traffic if you're able to. So, you leave if you are able to get to work a little bit later and you want to file it before you go to work, or if you can, take lunch maybe around 11 o'clock or something around that time, you can do that. So from 7 to noon, and our team is out here. We have a drive-through drop-off. We have a tent there, and our team is able to go ahead and receive receive our copy and stamp your copy, so you could just drive off. So 7 to noon, although we're here a little bit earlier. We're going to be issuing our volume 11 because we need to already give an update on our services, but for now it is 7 to noon.
Okay, thank you, Daphne.
No, thank you so much, Bree and Chris and Jason. Have a great day.
You too.
Stay safe.
That's that. There you go. 8:34, guys. We're gonna take a little break, and coming back, we're gonna have an interview with the governor that was conducted by our own KUAB News, Peter Santos.
Right. So Peter saw the lieutenant governor, when the lieutenant governor was getting vaccinated
Right.
last week Friday at the EOG Calvo Fieldhouse, and the governor